A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English, your favorite UPSC platform. And before I begin the Hindu newspaper analysis for the day, here's wishing all our subscribers, students, aspirants a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. I pray that this festive season all your dreams come true. I pray for your well being and happiness forever. So proud to have all of you on our platform. And now to today's agenda, we are going to analyze the Hindu newspaper, New Delhi edition for 27th August 2025. Although every day I try that we only take up very few selected articles that are very important for mains and prelims UPSC exam, but today's newspaper has made me rather helpless. We have a lot of articles that are important for the paper. So I have taken up three for detailed analysis, but I have introduced a new segment called Quick Bites. In the Quick Bite segment, you and I will just quickly read through the main points of the article because these do not need any detailed understanding, but yes, for the prelims, these are important. Very good morning, Sakshi, and very good morning, Order. So the first page article is the editorial page. That's your page number 6. Let's begin by analyzing that article. I have also introduced a mains question today. We just had the UPSC mains exam and I have realized that students really want to have more clarity on answer writing. They want to understand how to use information from the Hindu newspaper for their GS paper 1 to 4 answers. So that shall also be our agenda. And the first article here, as I said, is page number 6, editorial page article. It is talking about economic problems in India because of the ongoing tariff war between India and the US. But it also is highlighting how women stand to be disproportionately impacted by this tariff war. So not only is it a problem for the entire economy, but it is a major problem for Indian women. Hence, if I was to do a quick topic mapping, this is GS paper 2 because we are talking about gender problems in India because women are a vulnerable community. So yes, we are talking about gender problem. Then of course it is GS paper 3 because we are talking about economic issues such as free trade agreement, such as trade tariffs, India-US bilateral trade relationship, and we are also talking about female labor force participation rate, which means how many women in our country are actually participating in the working population. Very good morning, Shaggy. Everyone is well within time. We just started the conversation. So the first article says the gender angle to India's economic vulnerabilities, which means today India is experiencing vulnerability. We are in a very painful situation economically, but women will share a major burden of this problem. How and what's the key argument of the article? Let's have a look. Article begins by saying that India's GDP has reached dollars 4.19 trillion. This has made us the fifth largest economy across the world. Very soon we might also become the third largest economy across the globe. These are promising developments, but the problem is that although we were achieving a very good GDP growth rate, we were also experiencing a very high trade revenue, but suddenly comes the shock from US in the form of 25 plus 25, that's total 50% tariff on Indian exports. Imagine Indian exports that are worth dollars 40 billion in the global market will now be subjected to 50% tariffs in US, which means all export products from India, Indian exports, will face double the taxation in US market than they were facing earlier. So before this tariff shock, US would usually impose about 3 to 4% tariff. No wonder Indian goods and commodities had a major market in US. Today, after 50% tariff punishment, all Indian products will become unaffordable for US consumers. Then they will not buy Indian products, they will start buying products from Bangladesh, Vietnam, and China. because US has not imposed a similar trade duty on these other countries. It's a complete move of hitting India's export revenue. Today, which sectors are at majority risk because of this trade war? Yes, we have the textile sector that is going to face a major loss. We have gems and jewelry. We have manufacturing sectors like leather making. Apart from leather, we have the footwear and toy making, garments. All these industries are now going to face major problems. But there is another gender element to this problem. These industries that I'm talking about, textiles, gems, leather, footwear, toys, these are also the industries that employ majority women employees of India. And why is that the case? Because majority of these segments operate through the informal economy. Informal economy is the biggest workplace for Indian women right now. So when the sector that provides majority of labor intensive jobs to our Indian women who are semi skilled, some of them are unskilled, what about these women? These women who are employed in the labor intensive segments of these industries will face disproportionate amount of unemployment. Where will the 50 million workers in India go who find their jobs in in industries like leather, textile, footwear, garments, and all these? So today we are facing not only economic vulnerability, the export revenue loss, the fear of trade deficit, the fear of so many business houses shutting down, but at the same time, we are experiencing the major fear of Indian women losing their jobs further. So let's analyze it in terms of two problems. One is economic, the other is based on gender. Talking about economic problem, 18% of India's total exports are targeted to the US market, which means US is the largest destination, largest market for India's export. Okay, so India's largest export market is US right now, with 18% of total Indian exports going to United States of America. This tariff only means that our total export volume will decline. Now, we will also experience cost disadvantage with respect to competition coming from Vietnam, Bangladesh, and China. Because 30 to 35% we will experience loss when it comes to our goods demand in the US. These all countries on whom US has not been very harsh. Initially, US was equally harsh on China. It went ahead and imposed 143% tariff, but later it reduced it to mere 30 to 40%. For India, no such revision has been done. So, which means our products today are 35% less cost efficient in the US market. Nobody is going to buy them. Another problem will be with regards to GDP. As per the estimates, we will experience about 1% loss in total GDP. So 1% of India's GDP will come down, it will fall down because of this high tariff imposition. Unlike China, we do not dominate the global supply chains right now. Unlike China, we do not have huge trade diversity. US and the countries of Europe seem to be our largest bilateral trade partners. We still have not explored enough the markets of South America, the markets of South Asia, Southeast Asia, which means today we have very few options in terms of selling our products to foreign markets. Suddenly, too much work needs to be done. Time is running out, which means 1% of GDP can be lost. That's the sheer economic fear. What about the gender impact? Let's understand women dominate our labor intensive market. What is a labor intensive market? Jobs which need physical labor. Sometimes such jobs are also called as blue collar jobs, pink collar jobs. Blue collar, pink collar job means jobs which require physical hard work. They are different from white collar jobs because white collar jobs are more into IT service segment. They need more of mental work, computer work. Whereas Blue collar work is pure hard labor on ground, and pink collar work refers to women employed like nurses, midwives, caretakers in the health sector. But both these blue collar and pink collar come from labor intensive work. Physical work is important here because people who work here are not highly educated. People who work here do not have sufficient digital skills that are required in today's world job market. Most of these women employees are the ones who have had semi formal education. They haven't completed their education. They have not even finished any kind of higher technical degree. What happens then? The only place they get job from is pink and blue collar jobs. Both these come under the informal sector of the economy. Both these are labor intensive. Today, the impact on women employees will be worse as compared to men because it is Indian women, more than 40% of those who are working, they are working for the informal sector. If these sectors close, such as gems, garments, textiles, leather, footwear making, toy making, what happens to women? Naturally, they will lose their jobs. Now, this is tremendously bad for a country like India, where already, as compared to the global average, India's female labor force participation rate. What does that mean? Labor force is the total number of people who are working in a country, who earn money, who contribute to GDP. Female labor force participation refers to the number of women participating in the labor force. How many women in our country are working and earning money? In India, as compared to the global average, we already have a very poor female labor participation rate. For example, as compared to the global, we have about 33% less women in the job market. Talking to about countries like China, if China has 60% women in the labor force, India has barely 25%. Even as compared to the South Asian average, Indian women are not sufficiently working for money. They are not doing anything that's economically utilitarian. Therefore, India is one country which has huge gap, very poor female labor force participation rate. And once these sectors, these informal sectors like textile, gems, leather shut down, it will only become more low. It will only fall down further. Where will these women go to work? Where will they find job if all these industries close due to high tariff by the US? There is another problem here. Another problem comes from the fact that according to United Nations Population Fund, the UNPF or the UNPA, till 2025, we have something that's called demographic opportunity. India is a young population. Average age of an Indian is about 28 years. That's much younger as compared to population in countries like China, Russia, Japan, South Korea, US, Canada. All these countries are aging now. Their economies are becoming older because they are dominated by more old population, above 60 years old or above 55 years people who do not fall in the working segment. But in India, we have a demographic dividend, which means the benefit of having a young population. If the average age of an Indian is 28, India happens to be one of the youngest nations in the world. Plus, we are highly populated, which means we have a massive human resource capital. Until 2025, 2020, until 2045, according to United Nations, we will enjoy this benefit. But if we waste it, it's going to become a demographic disaster. Because after 2045, Indian population will slowly start aging. You might wonder why. Because even today, we have total fertility rate that has fallen below the global average of 2.0. The perfect fertility rate is considered to be 2.1. Therefore, it is also called as replacement level fertility. If every woman in a society has exactly 2 children, it's considered the best. At that rate, a population multiplies itself perfectly without any need for birth control, without any need for population control methods. But if it is higher than 2.1, it leads to disproportionately high population growth. If it's very low, like what is happening in other countries and even in India, in states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, UTs like Lakshadweep, UTs like Ladakh, already the total fertility rate has fallen below 1.7. Many people are not having children. Fertility problems are on the rise. Therefore, after 2045, India will not have a demographic dividend. We will also start becoming an old population, an economy that doesn't have as much human resource potential. Today we have that. Are we using that? Sadly, we are not using that. Okay, because majority Indians are working for the informal sector. So the burden of structural plus vulnerable unemployment is very high in India. So what are we doing? We are heading towards a demographic disaster. Therefore, the article is also asking, why are such less women in India working in the labor force? And out of those who are, why are they in the informal sector? Why don't we educate our women on a pattern like China, Japan, South Korea, where initiatives like in China after 1978, state government or the government of China, the People's Republic of China, decided to finance childcare. It said if women work, the government will provide free money for daycare system. It improved China's female labor force participation rate to 60%. Today it is 60%, very high. Similar happened in Japan. Japan started a new concept called womanomics, not economics, womanomics. It's a beautiful word. You can use it for your answer. Okay? It's a beautiful word. It's known as womenomics. Under this womenomics concept, when China started this womenomics, when Japan started womenomics, Japan started heavily investing in promoting STEM education among Japanese women. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. What was the benefit? Japan improved its female labor force participation rate too. We need concepts like these because in India there are structural barriers to women participation. For example, even today early marriage is the norm. In majority of rural India, women are getting married before the age of 20. Although the government is contemplating creating another amendment to the anti-child marriage bill and increasing the marriageable age of girls to 21. But still that has not been legislated. And in a majority of village areas, we experience child marriages. This leads to women dropping out of formal education, dropping out of workforce. In certain communities, women are not permitted to work. They believe in strict patriarchal norms that women are meant to do domestic labor, not the paid labor. In this situation, we cannot expect our labor force participation rate for women to go up. Plus, for those women who are working, there is no formal child care facility that they have. They do not enjoy any kind of constant regular transportation, sanitation at workplace. There is no digital access. There is hardly any opportunity for online work. In this case, what happens? It is our women who then do not participate in the labor force. But if the government is committed, we can take some very productive initiatives. One example of this initiative is coming from Karnataka. Now, recently, if you know, Karnataka had started a scheme just 2 years before. It was known as Karnataka's Shakti scheme. Under this, all women of Karnataka were allowed to travel free of cost in the buses. The benefit? 40% increase happened in female mobility. Females started traveling 40% more than what they were traveling earlier because they found safety here. They found it cost effective. If they find such connectivity, they will look for jobs. Similarly, you have the urban company model. This is the GIG model. I'm sure we know what is GIG. GIG is a work that is different from regular contract work. It is about part-time flexible work, where through online medium or through platform medium, people can start working in temporary contractual, semi-contractual labors. It's extremely beneficial to provide extra earning opportunities to women. Like we have the urban company today. 15,000 women are making about 25,000 rupees a month. That's revolution for a country like India. Then you have Rajasthan's Indira Gandhi Urban Employment Scheme. 65% of this, the benefit goes only to women. So, which means that rather than just giving women subsidies Rather than just creating schemes that benefit women, it's quite important to target the population which actually needs help, like the Karnataka Shakti scheme and like the urban companies model. We need more public private participation, the more PPP model in promoting women employment. Okay, so article is saying if there is a way forward, then the only way is one, to create more free trade agreements with countries like European Union, the UAE, which is again a second largest export destination for Indian products, and the ASEAN countries, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. If we can create better free trade agreements with these countries, we will have more market for our exports outside US. We need to have more trading partners. India is already talking to Philippines, Japan, China, countries of the EU. Recently, we have finalized the trade agreement with United Kingdom. We need to go further in that direction. According to International Monetary Fund, if India is able to include more women in the labor force, then 27% of our GDP will increase. That's a major number. Similarly, we also need to understand that Indian government initiatives like the Social Security Code of 2020, where it was promised that women, even in the informal sector, will be given benefits like child daycare free, insurance, maternity leave, some kind of pension benefit. All these need to be strictly implemented. We have to promote, right at the level of school, more STEM education for our girl students. We need to encourage more women through schemes like Kiran scheme in India. It's a wonderful scheme that encourages women to take up scientific research. It also provides women to study PhD programs with foreign university collaborations. We need such initiatives. We also need to understand that if we are creating Atmanirbhar India today, if we want to face the challenge of US tariff and still have a good GDP, then you can't leave behind half the population. That is women. Yes, absolutely. The e-Shram portal, which is a centralized database for all informal sector migrant workers. So any such initiative which is allowing women to work more with better ease keeps them safe. For example, I could also say, what about the POSH Act, Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace? We need to implement this more strongly in the informal sector companies also. So this will definitely improve women participation, and once that happens, no matter what the US does to us, we have the human resource to generate adequate GDP. That's the article's argument. I want to share a mains question with you. Please try to answer the question, and if you have understood this article, you will be able to handle this question. India's failure to economically empower half its population not just is not just a social concern, it is a strategic liability. It is not about social welfare that India needs to empower its women. It is a strategic liability. It's a requirement of today's time. Strategic because yes, today India is experiencing the tariff war against US. India knows China is not a reliable friend. So we have those strategic challenges in front of us. It's a duty, responsibility today. So please discuss this, that how can we promote more women in the workforce in the context of recent US imposed tariffs? Always start your answer with an introduction where you explain the keywords in one line and then create a link between the keywords. In the body of every mains answer, you have to talk about how, when, and why. Very important, 2 points each. And then conclude your answer by giving any one solution from your side to solve the problem. I would say it's a very easy question. You need to discuss how US tariffs have created a fear among India's exports in textile, garment, gems and jewelry, and various other electronic segment. Majority of workers in this segment are women. Therefore, high tariffs is equal to poor women participation in labor force, higher unemployment among women, and then talk about how can we solve the problem. Do try to answer. If you want a model answer, do let me know. I can keep it posted as well. If you want to discuss question answer writing based on the Hindu, that also please let me know in the comment box. Anything that works for you, anything that helps you in writing quality answers, I'm up for it. Okay, now here's a prelims question based on the same article. Try to answer. All the prelims answers I have provided in the last page of this presentation. Question is, consider the following statements. One, the textile, gems, and jewelry leather footwear segment together employ around 50 million people in India, with a significant share of women workers. Two, according to IMF, if we close our gender gap in the workforce, our GDP shall increase to 27%. And last is India's demographic dividend window it will remain open till 2060, so there's nothing to worry. Try to find the right answer by selecting the valid codes. A very good morning, Rishi. A very good morning, Vikash. Wishing you a very happy birthday, Rishi. God bless you. And I wish a lot of success to you and all other aspirants, of course. Second article for the day, very important. India braces for impact of 50% US tariffs from today. Do not forget. Today is a special day for so many of my students. Today is a special day because today is Ganesh Chaturthi, but today also is a very relevant day because from today we will start experiencing the impact of United States of America's 50% tariff. This is page 1, front page article. Most of it we have discussed. I will cover the quick points here. From today itself, we are going to face the liability and the burden of the 50% tariff. Okay. So, topic wise, this is GS paper 3. We are talking about trade deficit. We are talking about India US bilateral trade relationship. And we are talking about GS paper 2, international relations. India, US, China, WTO, all of that comes in the picture. What's the key argument? On 27th August, that's today, is the final deadline when we are going to face the result of 50% US tariffs on Indian exports. This is composed of two things. The earlier 25% tariff that was already in place since 7th August. Today, another 25% as a punishment because we continue to import crude oil from Russia. And US has said India has supported the war against Ukraine by buying Russian oil. What a hypocrisy. China does the same. EU countries do the same. US does the same, but we have been blamed. Fine. We need to accept it now. What's the future? Future is that India will continue to buy oil from the Russian economy. India will continue to buy crude oil. It is a need for us. We will not start buying US oil under pressure because that is costing us double the price. So our government led by PM Modi has made it very clear that neither are we going to bow down in front of this tariff pressure. Second thing is, as of now, we have not decided to impose any reciprocal duty. Reciprocal tariff duties we haven't decided to impose on US products, but we have an alternate strategy. Remember, India is very committed to its multilateralism. We are not interested in fighting with the US right now because US also has one of the largest Indian diaspora. Majority of our IT workers are working in the US. Keeping this in mind and the security of India's interest, India does not want and cannot afford an out and out war against US. So what is the solution that we have decided? One thing is we will face the 50% tariff punishment with boldness, with resilience. That's one thing. Second thing is that we have decided that we will not impose reciprocal tariff as of now, but yes, we are working on an alternate strategy that's called Atmanirbhar Bharat. We will do everything from Reserve Bank of India trying to once again work on its repo rate cash reserve ratio only to pump more fluidity, liquidity in the economy so that consumers have more purchasing power. Second, we are planning to revise our GST tax structure. GST in India, which follows multi-slab structure, will now have 12% and 28% slabs mixed together. So GST filing is going to be easy for our consumers, lesser tax liability. Third thing, we will also now try to create self-sufficiency across all the segments of economy by once again doing something that we had done in 1905 after Lord Curzon resorted to partitioning the Bengal. Swadeshi. So we are saying today, let's go the Swadeshi model. Let's become vocal for local. Because this 50% punishment is going to impact $47 billion worth of goods produced in India. they will be hit very badly. Nobody in US is going to buy them. As I said, through leather, textile, garment, gems and jewelry, electronics, marine products, machinery, nobody is going to buy them. So therefore, we need to become Atmanirbhar. That's the only solution. Second thing is that US, despite punishing us by 50% tariff, also has given us some exemption. What is this exemption? There are certain segments on which tariffs have been exempted. We have got some relief in few sectors such as iron, steel, pharmacy, pharmaceutical products. I can write it as pharma. Similarly, copper derivatives. Okay. Then apart from copper derivatives, we have passenger vehicles. These right now have got exemption. Wonder why have they got exemption? Because India is very self-sufficient when it comes to manufacturing these things. Isn't it an eye-opener that the sectors in which you are already Atmanirbhar, sectors in which you already have a massive production and supply chain domination will never suffer? Because then US is also helpless here. It needs these products from India. It also cannot let a loss happen to its own economy. So therefore, the more strong we are, the lesser we suffer. The proof is that yes, we have exemptions across all these segments, but the real pain is coming from the fact that the unskilled, semi-skilled, women, lower caste, rural population is not working for these exempted segments. It is continuing to get employed and find employment in these segments on which 50% tariff has come, like leather, textile, garment, gems and jewelry and machinery. That's why we are feeling helpless. So far, as I said, India has not decided to go for a reciprocal duty, but yes, India is saying that I will go Swadeshi, I will go vocal for local. What can I do? What can India do to boost its domestic demand? Clearly, there are certain steps that we can take. First, such step is going to be that 50 million workers who are working in textile, garment industry, since they are going to get impacted, and our energy security may also get impacted in the future because US is constantly pressurizing. It's not like US is saying 50% punishment, I have given you full stop. No. Today, if still we keep continuing to export crude materials from Russia, which we will anyway, US may throw another tantrum and increase this duty to say 70 to 80%. What will we do then? That fear is always there. So therefore, we are now trying to create self-employment generation. Plus, there is another threat of rupee depreciation in foreign markets. And already the stock markets for major Indian companies are falling in the global stock market. So yes, there are problems. Solution is only one, Atmanirbharta. Talking about solutions, one is very recently Indian government is saying, let's do the rare earth material mining in India itself. It is saying let's create projects like the Great Nicobar project, which will generate employment for many more Indians. The government is also saying go back to cultivating organic species of crop. Reduce your dependence on foreign fertilizers, pesticides, and high yielding varieties in agriculture. US has said we will not allow any American multinational company to come and start supplying in India's agriculture and dairy segment. We will not let our farmers face open market competition. We will always give them subsidy, no matter who says what. Plus, we are also planning to work for the betterment of the MSME sector, the small and medium industries. Second solution, create a close in gender gap in labor force. Encourage more women. Use tools like National Education Policy 2020, self-help groups to skill the women of India so that our labor force improves, labor force participation improves, GDP jumps up. Third, as I said, we are working on RBI tools. We are working on things like creating more liquidity for Indian consumers. At the same time, we are also trying our best to promote once again the cottage industry culture of India across rural India. Okay? Through India's GI tag products, we are trying to create a better market and diversify our trade partners in South Asia. Earlier, we were not happy with the ASEAN agreement, the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. India thought it is too China dominated, but again, we are rethinking on that. Once again, we are ready to go the RCEP route. We will encourage more trade with ASEAN, China, Japan, whatever it takes to fight this current problem. So that's the situation right now. The question, it's a prelims question. It says, consider the following statements with regards to India-US trade. One is, in 2019, US withdrew India's beneficiary states under generalized system of preferences affecting several export sectors. It's a slightly tough one. Think about it. Actually, it's true. Two, the recent US tariff of 50% on Indian goods have been partly linked to India's continued import of crude oil from Russia. Easy. Three, the tariff measures announced in 2025 have exempted iron, steel, and aluminum products. Which of these is or are valid? You can try the answer. The answer is there on the last slide for you. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can talk about the mining scam here. Now, this is very sad at this moment. That's a valid point. Now, the next article is page number 7, and this article is GS paper 1, General Studies paper 1, because this is a social issue of education in India. It is also a little bit touching upon GS paper 2 because we are talking about vulnerable communities, and among vulnerable communities come children under the age of 5, those who are coming from the EWS, economically weaker segments. What is this article all about? Article says that India plans to become Viksit Bharat by 2047. Viksit Bharat means developed Bharat, developed India. For this, we need to understand that today's children are tomorrow's future generation. Today's students are tomorrow's workforce. Today's school students are tomorrow's college students, and then they are the future GDP earners for Indian economy. Rather than trying to work for adult education, rather than trying to suddenly teach people vocational skills, it's much easier to work at the ground level. Article says a child under the age of 5 is like a clay. If you mold that child properly, the child will become an adult who will not only be very, very educationally empowered, healthy in terms of body and mind, but also the child will become a major asset for your economy. So can we do something here? Yes. There is a very important concept. The question can come in GS paper 1 mains next year. It is about early childhood care and education. You all must have heard about the word Anganwadi school, the preschool. Under National Education Policy 2020, Anganwadi has been made compulsory. All children before entering formal school, that's grade 1, will have to undergo at least 3 to 5 years of primary preschool education where they will be taught basic numeracy skills, basic spoken skills, basic language, touch and play method of learning. They will also be provided with nourishing food at least once a day, supplements through the government, through Anganwadi centers, through Asha workers, through Gram Panchayats. All this boils down to a very interesting initiative which is known as Early Childhood Care and Education, the ECCE model. Under the ECCE model, this can become a pillar of future human capital development. How? The importance of ECCE was revealed by the very famous medical CMC Institute at Vellore, Tamil Nadu, where it was found that 18 to 24 months of training in the ECCE program led to an improvement in IQ level of children under 5 by 19 points. Similarly, the very well-known Nobel Prize laureate James Heckman has said that there is a return of 13 to 80% when you invest on early childhood care and education at a school level. Which means in terms of your GDP and workforce, you will get 18% result in that tomorrow. But how can we do that? That's what the article is saying. Article is trying to tell you that In India, we need to encourage under the national education policy three very clear cut points. One is making sure that nutrition is a key agenda when it comes to early childhood education. At the level of Anganwadi, where majority of government funded preschools are operating in villages. Create more nutrition, more people will attend school, it will be better for them in future. Second, let's work on a concept that's called the unstructured play concept. Very interesting. Today, as we are, at least in the urban area, we are focusing on skilling our children. The coaching and the tuition culture has become very popular. Provide coaching, make children learn programming, make children learn AI, make children learn fancy English spoken vocabulary programs. There are so many programs running like early mathematical intervention programs. People are buying these products blindly. They fail to understand that under the age of 5, what really leads to an improvement in IQ of a child is unstructured play. Unstructured play is about letting the child experience freedom within a safe domain. Let the child interact with people, colleagues, adults. Let the child be exposed to environment. Touch the soil, the plant, the flowers. Exposure to animals. Yeah, absolutely. That's a valid example, Shaggy. I agree. Too many commercializing units are there. Then at the same time, children need to be allowed to explore by touching materials. The sheer touch of toys, blocks, sensory materials as we call them, sensory books, books which are touch and feel books, audio books, all these really improve your IQ level. So this is the need of the hour. Rather than running behind the coaching culture, making your child an expert in coding or making your child an expert in mathematics and mental mathematics, it's much better that at least give them space till they are turning 5, allow them pre-education under the Anganwadi concept, only based on healthy nutrition, unstructured play, and safety. These three things will definitely lead to an IQ improvement. Apart from vocational skills and vernacular languages, NEP 2020 should also make it mandatory for preschools to have ECCE, that is nutrition and unstructured play. Has the government done anything to promote? Has it done anything to promote the health and educational outcomes of young children? Well, yes. One program is Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi. It is coming under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. It is about training Anganwadi workers. Anganwadi schools are government financed preschools or preparatory schools which are located in various semi-urban, peri-urban, rural areas, sometimes in small towns also, where young children coming from poor economic backgrounds get free education plus some health supplements like fruits, vegetables, or some food items per day. Anganwadi workers have been trained under Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi to teach children play-based learning, touch-based learning. Government needs to give more budgets to that, and government needs to monitor the ECCE program monthly in these schools. Another very important concept under national education policy is Aadhar Sheela. Aadhar is like a foundation. Aadhar Sheela means from the age of 3 to 6 years, let children develop cognitively and emotionally. While books only teach you knowledge, unstructured play and exposure to environment gives you emotional intelligence, which means through physical workout, through casual playing, through exposure to nature, outdoor games, healthy meals, teaching Indian culture and values, you can have much better future generation. And then comes Nav Chetana. Nav Chetna is a new realization. That's for very young children from 0 to 3 years. It is basically meant to stimulate the minds of young children and toddlers. How? By just letting them play with each other. By just giving them basic activities like playing with blocks or playing with, small pieces of wood or ball playing or, identifying, touching flowers just to improve their senses and how they relate to their environment, talking to them, letting them speak, the fluency in speech, all that have become very important right now under the new educational policy. Because the new educational policy is quite in line with sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goal number 4.2. Equal access to quality childhood education across the world by 2030. Sustainable development 2 and 3. health outcomes lead to better educational outcomes. There are some challenges that India is experiencing right now. For example, in rural areas, Anganwadis are focusing on nutrition, but they have not been able to focus on unstructured play and sensory learning. Second thing is, most Anganwadis are not having proper sanitation facilities. There are very poor toilet facilities. Sometimes they lack adequate space for having nice and spacious play areas and classrooms. That's something the government has to monitor and implement immediately. Let's jump on to the next article. This is page number 12, and this article is talking about how the central government has decided to finalize the National Designated Authority. The National Designated Authority. What is the purpose? The purpose is to promote carbon markets in India. The purpose is to promote carbon markets in India. And what are carbon markets in India? What are carbon markets in India? Let me quickly explain to you. Whenever the word carbon markets come, please understand that the whole world right now, under the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, and under the direction of World Health Organization, United Nations, has taken a commitment to try to reduce their carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, majorly by 2030. These commitments taken by a country are known as nationally determined contributions. How much does a country promise to cut its carbon footprint by 2030? All the countries have different targets. Some have very high, some have very low. But here also there is a big problem involved. It is the rich countries like America, countries like Germany, Italy, France. These countries are responsible for major carbon footprint. They are very industrialized and they have been responsible for huge greenhouse gas and carbon emissions. Whereas developing countries like India, Brazil, Venezuela, or countries like Philippines, countries like Bangladesh, they are not secreting too much carbon dioxide. Still, the carbon footprint is lower as compared to advanced industrial countries. And yet, unfortunately, it is always the poor countries that are blamed for polluting the climate. It's very easy for countries like US and EU to come and say that since developing countries have poor environmental regulations, they are the ones who are damaging the climate and creating global warming, while the opposite is the truth. Despite rich and industrial countries having good climate regulations, they are also responsible. They are the only ones who are responsible for massive carbon dioxide emission. Hence comes the concept of carbon market, a strategy through which countries can mutually decide how much carbon emissions to do. Today, we are having a market structure to carbon emission. This is known as carbon emission trading system, in which countries who emit much more carbon dioxide like US and EU, they will purchase rights to release carbon dioxide, which are called as carbon credits or carbon points. If I want to release some extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere through my manufacturing industrial process, I will go and buy some carbon credit or carbon points from the market. I am ready to spend money, which means I have more right to do carbon emission. A country which is poor, who cannot afford to buy carbon points, will try to reduce its carbon footprint and earn money by selling these carbon credits in the market. So, which means you are creating a situation where countries will be afraid of emitting more because they will have to spend more money. That's the philosophy. It is a market in which individual countries, companies can actually sell a certain unit of CO2 emission and buy a certain permission to produce more CO2 and greenhouse gas. For example, one carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas. If you buy, you can emit more. You have the freedom. If you sell, you are saying that I'm reducing my emission to 1 ton. So this reduction, I will monetize now. I will sell it to some other country, let them emit. I will do a compromise, but in return, I will get money. The purpose is to incentivize private companies to have more monetary benefit by reducing their carbon footprint. India today has finalized a very important project called National Designated Authority. Under this, India will now formally participate in the international carbon credit trading system, because for India it is an opportunity to earn 10 to 15 million additional dollars annually by selling and exporting carbon credits. It's a good thing. India today, when it finalizes this NDA under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, India has respected and followed Article 6 under the Paris Agreement 2015, which had allowed for creation of the carbon trading market. So what is this Article 6 of Paris Agreement? Very important for your exam. Article 6 has certain points such as Article 6.2 allows countries to mutually trade carbon emission units. Article 6.4 is saying under the provision, protection and monitoring of United Nations, we will create a proper systematic carbon market which can work transparently. And Article 6.8 says technology, transfer, finance, all these can also tomorrow be linked to the carbon market system if it's a successful model. What's the whole intention behind it? Intention is one, to reduce the nationally determined contributions of the countries further to help the countries achieve them. Second, to tax extra carbon emission and to reward lesser carbon emission by allowing people to earn money for reducing their total emission rate. Now, when India has signed up for this agreement, the problem is that India is saying, I will reduce my carbon emission intensity of the GDP by 40% by 2030. But people are saying it's a very ambitious target. Very ambitious target. I don't know. We wonder whether we can achieve it. India is also saying 50% of electronic vehicles I will actually invest into. All my energy will be renewable energy. We will move away completely from non-renewable energies like coal, petroleum, diesel, kerosene by 2030. Again, very unlikely, because even today India is a major manufacturer, user of carbon, charcoal. Second and third thing is that it will further create a carbon sink of 3 billion tons by planting more trees. Ultimately, the target is to achieve zero carbon emission by 2070. But recently, there is another debate that if we start completely using electronic vehicles, then how will we make so many electronic vehicle batteries? How? What is used in making electric batteries and solar cells? What is used? Rare earth materials, lithium, cobalt, gallium, these are used. Where do they come from? Mining. What does mining do? Further carbon emission. So therefore, it is a vicious cycle. We need to think more about it. What will be the role of NDA if created? Absolutely. Very well said. One thing is that all eligible activities which generate carbon dioxide will have to be listed under NDA. Second thing is that government will be the key regulator of allowing companies license to operate if they are using some carbon emission protocol. It will also help in giving consumers the clarity against greenwashing. Let companies not lie to the consumers that we have zero carbon emission when in reality they actually emit much more. So this kind of fake propaganda, greenwashing, lying about your climate commitments, that will not happen. And then eventually we will also be in a position to sell our extra carbon credits, which means only more money for the economy. Well, that's the promise of now. Let's see what happens in future. Prelims question for you. With reference to carbon markets, consider these statements. One, under the Paris Agreement, it is Article 6 that provides framework for international carbon credit trading. Two, in India, National Designated Authority is responsible for approving projects eligible for carbon credit generation. And last, one carbon credit is equal to 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas reduced or removed. Easy question. Pick out the right answer by choosing the right codes. And now the last major article for the day, page number 12. Once again, GS paper 2, social justice. GS paper 1, education. Okay. Education as a key social issue. Absolutely. That's a very valid question you have asked. Beautiful question. If we sell all the carbon credits and reduce our emissions, how will we do our industrial activity? How will we experience industrial growth? Well, that's the catch here. That's the whole dilemma. If we completely reduce carbon credits and start getting money by selling them, do we have an alternative on which our industries will function? Is it so easy to bring renewable energy into the market? Still, renewable energy has not been tested enough. Private companies are not ready to invest too much money in it. There is no clarity on how much foreign direct investment will come. Plus, the manufacturing of cells need expensive imports from countries like China, Australia, Chile. So we don't know really. How will things be? That's the dilemma. Good question. So this article on page 12 is saying government schools in India have a very poor enrollment ratio. Only 55.9% people are enrolling themselves in government schools. Once again, a major debate between privatization of education versus providing universal access to primary elementary education as envisaged via 86th Amendment Act to the Indian Constitution back in 2002. Fundamental Right, Article 21A. All children in India will have a right to free primary education from the age of 6 to 14. Article 21A, created by the 86th Amendment Act. It's a fundamental right. But the article says only 55.9% children are enrolling in government schools. Why? Let's see. There has been a data which came from the National Sample Survey 80th round of 2025. It's called Education Survey. Please remember, you can use this data for your mains answer. PDF is now available to you. There is a link given in the pinned section of this video. Every day, you will have access to all my PDFs with annotations. Please keep these data, remember them, use them for your answers. Any question, let me know. Education Survey 2025 is saying there is a massive gap of expenditure between private and government schools. Government schools are spending only rupees 2,800 per child, whereas private schools, unaided schools, are spending 25,000 rupees per child, 9 times more than government school. Imagine the gap in quality of textbooks, stationery, pedagogy, sanitation, clean drinking water must be massive. What does it mean? Despite the government schools being more affordable for Indian lower middle class and working population, they are very low in quality. That's why people are not enrolling in government schools. Majority of people think that rather than sending their children to government school, they should keep their children out of school. No wonder child labor is quite high among the migrant labor population, especially for girls. This is creating social inequality. When education is unequal, employment will obviously be unequal. Talking about the aided private schools, there are some private schools which are aided by the government. Even they are not able to compete with the purely private schools because their majority of 27% students, for example, in a class, 27% students in an average classroom, in an average standard of an aided private school, semi-government school, they are taking private coachings. In urban India, 30.7% children enroll themselves in such schools. In rural, only 25%. Private coaching is becoming like a parallel school now. I don't want to take any names here, but it's writing on the wall. Majority students, rather than attending schools regularly or understanding anything, are studying only on the basis of private coaching classes. It's very unfortunate because it is having in the K to 12 model until grade 12. Everything is happening through coaching institutes, through online coaching, offline coaching. What's the value of having schools in that case? In government schools, 60% enrollment ratio exists only. 66% rural, 30% urban. Private unaided schools, 31.9% enrollment nationally. Look at the gap. Just look at the gap. Now, but let's talk about funding. Where is the money coming from? 95% of school education in India is coming from the parents' pockets. Out of pocket expenditure. Privately financed education. If I have the money, I can send my child to a fancy, global, international school. The child will get quality education, quality sanitation, clean drinking water, quality infrastructure, smart classrooms. If I send my child to a government school or a semi-aided school, probably I will be spending some money, but there is hardly any return. My child is not getting any quality service there. Only 1.2% people in India are depending on government scholarships. Apart from that, the remaining 98 point something percent people finance higher education of their children through their own money. What is the implication of this? When there is weak scholarship, yes, lesser people will go for higher education, especially women. Second thing is it contributes to heavy burden on poor families. If they cannot afford the fee of the school and private coachings, their children will remain to drop out from school. They will be semi-literate, semi-educated. Tomorrow it is visible in the fact that 40% of our labor force is in the informal economy because they have not received any higher technical education at all. That's the case. Any prelims question on this? Yes. With reference to findings of the 80th round of NSS Education Survey 25, look at the following statements. 1. The average per student expenditure in non-government school is nearly 9 times higher than in government schools. 2. Nearly one-third of all students in India were found to be taking private coaching along with schools. And 3. More students are enrolled in private unaided schools than in government schools at a national level. Very easy, very simple question based on the article. Options are right here. You could choose the you could select the valid option and accordingly respond to the question. Absolutely, that's still pending. The school merger, yes. There was a recent decision that all the schools in the rural areas, they will be merged with the secondary or, polytechnics or the secondary higher schools. So that there is better space and more facilities for schools or for government school children rather than having individual small schools. That is still under consideration. Okay. Now, before I end, last two quick bites. In the quick bites, I will just show you two more developments that have happened, but they don't need any details as such. One is coming from the economy page, that is GS paper 3. It says first batch of Vitara to set sail for Europe this month. Now, Maruti Suzuki's Indian made battery, Indian made electric vehicle battery, EV battery, has now been exported to the European market for the first time. So I would want you to remember that e-Vitara, that's the name, e-Vitara. E-Vitara is going to be Maruti Suzuki's manufactured Indian electric vehicle battery, the largest of its kind mass-produced battery. It will be sent from India, that's Gujarat, to the European Union market. Expected to be, yes, from the Ahmedabad unit. Very well said. And it is poised to bring us some massive revenue if this becomes a scalable model. Okay. So this is the first of its kind production of mass EV manufacturing of batteries by Maruti Suzuki. This will be sold in more than 100 countries, including United Kingdom, Japan, and many other countries of the EU. Okay. This is one thing I want you to know for the day. And the next quick bite is once again, page number 1, the front page. It's a continuation of the previous debate. Supreme Court is saying when a governor is reserving a bill for presidential permission and the courts can interfere in that case, then today, if the governors are not taking any action on bills passed by state legislatures for months, why cannot the Supreme Court come and interfere here? It is not about judicial activism, according to Supreme Court. It is about restoring the legislative process in states. The debate happened when many state governments started complaining, especially in Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, that whatever bill we pass in our state legislative assembly, the governor does not give us permission. The governor does not take an action on that immediately because the government is acting as a representative of the central ruling party. He is serving as a representative of the ruling party, and hence, because we are from the opposition party, opposition rule states are complaining that governors are not taking seriously the bills that we pass. Absolutely valid point. Yes, you're mentioning the right article here. Valid point. Very good. That's the complaint. So therefore, Supreme Court is saying that this is not judicial activism. We have every right to examine. In case the government is sitting on a bill for years altogether, it's a waste of time because then no rule, no bill can become a law. So it is undermining the constitutional position of the governor under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution, that judiciary can review any such discretion taken by governor for being inactive on a bill for months and years altogether. Similarly, Article 200 is also being mentioned here, which deals with governor's power to deal with state bills in front of him, whether say yes, whether say no. So that is also under question today. Can the Supreme Court interfere? Yes or no? What do you think the Supreme Court should do? Is it okay to open Articles 200 and 356 to judicial intervention? Or will it undermine the federal structure of Indian politics? I would love to hear your comments. And on this note, I am ending today's discussion. Once again, happy festival vibes to everyone here. Hope you enjoyed the news segment. I tried to cover the paper as comprehensively as I could so that you don't have to touch the newspaper again. You can have the access to the PDF. If there's any question, let me know. If you want any clarification on any particular topic, yes, of course, you can let me know that too. See you tomorrow with another such interesting session. If you are enjoying my classes, then please like, share, and subscribe Study IQ English. Thank you.